welcome back to another episode of Foster Talks. And today I have with me a doctor by profession, a writer and author, Dr. Shalini Malik, with me into Foster Talks. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome so much.
Thank you so much. It's
How
a
are
pleasure
you?
to be here. I'm good. And
Great.
thank you for having me here.
Our pleasure. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. And I think the hot weather has also decreased because of the warmth of Foster Talks.
Oh, wow. That's very sweet of you to say. Well, my first question to you is, like I just introduced you, you're a doctor by profession.
That's right.
That's not an easy thing to do. That consumes a lot of time as
Yes.
well. So how do you manage or juggle between these two things of being a doctor, managing your work, going to the hospital, and also finding time to write? What is your daily routine like?
So you forgot to add also managing family.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you're right. It is very demanding, both in terms of time and in energy. My daily routine is that I try, and of course the time that I spend for my work is fixed. I cannot change that, and I do not want to change that. I totally enjoy my work also. So I try. So 9 to 5 is like a very structured work time for me. But I try and get my writing done early in the morning because by evening you're too tired. There are other things happening, and so I try to. I've always been an early riser. And also, I think being a doctor helps because, we're used to studying so much and getting up at all kinds of hours to get work done that, we just take it as part and parcel. But my routine, as you asked, is that I try and get some writing done in the mornings around, say, between 5 to 6 or 5 to 7 or whatever time, depending on when I wake up. And then, of course, it's a busy work day and everything. Evenings, if I get time, I sit down with some revisions or some edits because generally that's not a very productive time, after the whole day's fatigue. So I try and do that. And this is just what I try to do. It does not always happen.
Of course.
Because so what happens is that I try and use my weekends. The weekend mornings are actually when I really get a significant amount of writing done because if the home is calm, everything is done. So I really try and catch up on weekends and holidays so that even if I miss my daily writing spell, I am not feeling bad about it. So
got it. So in your, when I was just going through your profile, it was being told that any library is the most magical place that you can imagine.
Yes.
So is anything your world of writing, your way of escaping from the real world, or is it like, what is it for you?
That's a lovely question. It's definitely an escape.
Okay.
It's definitely an escape, especially the first book was a complete escape. It's like a ideal, perfect, love-touched world. So writing is an escape from not only the daily chaos, not only the daily conflicts, the traffic, the routine. Writing is, for me, also it's an escape from the things that I cannot control.
Interesting.
I can control everything about writing, except for the publishing part. Let's not talk about
Of course. The technicalities of it, yes.
Yeah. So I can control when I want to write.
Yeah.
I control what I'm writing. I don't really have deadlines. I mean, when you're doing fiction and novels, it's not like you have to submit something tomorrow.
Yes.
So this is a part of my life which I can control. And I enjoy that because there's very less, I mean, if you think about it, when you're in a full-time job,
Yes.
you're just responding to things around you.
Oh, very true, yes.
More so as a doctor, you're responding to so many other people's needs. So this is where I call the shots. I write because I want to.
Wow, interesting way of putting it. But how was the transition like? I mean, also from the point of view that was writing that you somehow discovered and chose somewhere down the line, or you've always wanted to write? You've always been somebody who keeps
Closet
writing.
writer.
Yeah, somebody like that. What was the journey like for you?
So, this is a very difficult question for me to answer because most people who ask it, they expect me to have, like you said, that I always wanted to be a writer. I don't have that kind of a romanticized story.
Yeah.
I've always been a very, very voracious reader.
Okay.
I mean, I'll be reading 3 or 4
Yes.
books at a time,
Yes.
and from the time I've been a young kid. But writing was never something that I really considered, I'm being very honest. But somewhere around, 2019, I started writing on social media. Some of my friends were writing. So I would write in response. And then, the validation that comes, someone says, oh, we like this.
Wow.
And then in response to that, I started writing short stories.
Nice.
And then I discovered, like I said, one, I can control it.
Yes.
It was like a little part of me, and I realized that I enjoy it. So once you enjoy something, I think we all make the extra effort to give it that time. So for me, it came very late in life. I've just been writing for the last 5 years, to be very, very honest.
Yes.
But it was something that made me feel very happy,
Okay.
and it made me feel like I want to grow in this area.
Yes.
You know?
Got it. Oh, that's really interesting. I mean, personally, for me, that was a good positive motivation because I've always been an audacious reader. Who knows? Maybe one day
Of
I will
course.
also write my book.
They do say everyone has a book inside them.
Exactly, right? So, before I dive into your
Yeah.
books, because you just mentioned your short stories, I'm a little intrigued about it because while doing a little bit of research about you, I got to know that you started off with a lot of short stories.
Yes.
You have a lot of anthologies in which your short stories is mentioned, and you've received awards for your short stories. Just can you take me through that part of your writing journey?
Of course. So I started writing short stories, and short stories, I mean like the ones which are usually on 3,000 to 4,000 words. And I started posting them on different online platforms like Women's Web and Ishi and these kind of things. And I was writing very women-centric
Yes.
stories, about the core was about women's identity and them finding their own space. And some of them got awards. I've got 2 Orange Flower Awards, which are awards for bloggers.
Yes.
One was for LGBTQ, where the protagonist was a homosexual couple, and the other one was for short fiction, which was a general short fiction story. So those. Then for Ishi, I won an award. They had a short story contest, and so about 5 of my stories have been published in 3 anthologies.
Nice.
And so that set the pace, that I also thought that, if I can write short, let me go to long form. So that has been a transition
That's
for me.
interesting. Congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
That's an amazing achievement because I was really impressed when I went through your entire profile because it also seemed like you are an activist by heart.
Yes.
So are you still working around certain of the projects, or what are you up to nowadays with that?
So I am an activist. I'm a feminist first,
okay.
and yes, I do want to continue that form of writing. I have certain ideas,
Yes.
which hopefully will come out in the form of a book or maybe op-ed series or something. So I would like to work on them because I found that they resonate very strongly.
Yes, it does.
And-
Exactly.
And also I deeply feel this, that it's my duty to tell those stories, so they need to be told. So I do plan to work more around women's identity, maybe explore how this intersects with medicine. Maybe not. I mean, these are just thoughts, And also on that note, what I want to say is that when I'm writing fiction, I'm still doing the same thing. We will talk about the books. My women are strong women.
Yes.
They take decisions, they make their choices,
Yes.
they have conviction.
Yes.
So I think that comes through in whatever piece you're doing. Like, I'm not able to show a typical sexist relationship.
Okay.
I mean, if you've read The Way Home,
Yes.
it's very simple. If Anya and Roy are going on a bike, Anya's driving it.
Yeah.
Get it? So those are the subtle messages also, I feel, that we must put across. Like, if you look at it, honestly speaking, since you've got me started on something I really like, so I'm just going to give you one example. So if you look at it very traditionally, when we have families coming over, we see the man is driving the vehicle and the woman is either riding pillion or in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like that. That is also how social conditioning happens. So that, for me, at least in my book, I want to, where I can. See, in a fiction book, I can't be preachy. But if in my head, my character is developed that way, it will come through.
Interesting. That's what, I mean, once we dive into the book,
Yeah.
that was exactly my first question. So I'm already deep diving into
Okay.
it. Because your characters were very interesting. Let it be Anya, let it be Roy, let it be Neil for that matter. One, I should really appreciate you. The characters were very well developed. And one common factor I found in both the books were that it was women-centric. It was actually women-centric, but not in a very on the face feminist way. It was very subtle examples, subtle things where when you read, you connect and you feel like, oh, this feels nice. There's something that I wanted to do, but I've been doing, or I wanted to do, but then I've always thought, what would the society tell? But then it was so evidently nicely portrayed into the book, which gave the message, which you were very successful about. So that was actually an interesting thing about the book that I thought. And I really wanted to have that conversation.
I'm glad. Thank you.
But at the same time, again, coming back into The Way Home, the book really talks a lot about relationships, the connection between people, the what you can find in each other, how you can support each other, how you can be a better person for each other. So these were some of the themes that I felt that was kind of there hidden inside the book. So how was this journey about building these themes, building these characters? How was it for you?
So I agree completely, and I'm sorry that I hijacked it towards the women's part. It's just something that's really close to my heart.
That took the trouble away for me to go back and figure out the next topic.
So, so the journey, yes, a character has to be strongly developed, and more than that, we have to be very clear about our character.
Very true.
So that is something that any fiction author will agree upon. Regarding the connection, so I believe in the power of human connection. It is just something that I believe in very strongly. My first book touches on that in the concept of soulmates.
Yes.
And my second book touches on that in the concept of a friendship.
Yes.
I wanted to explore friendship with a very deliberate, thoughtful intent. The intent was this, that not many books focus on friendship.
I agree.
Few movies do, and all the movies that are focused on friendship actually have done very well.
Yeah.
And in today's changing world, honestly, friendship is a constant.
Yes.
You know, you have young people struggling so much with so many things, and times have changed as they should. Relationships have a shorter lifespan. People are coming out and understanding their own childhood issues and traumas.
Yeah.
Everyone is not always lucky to be blessed with a positive family. Unfortunately, that happens, and youngsters are recognizing it. So what's your constant? These days, it's more and more friendship, right? And like you said, to be there for someone, to be a better person, and to, that shared humanity which comes when you're able to share parts of yourself, when a friend of yours helps you heal, when a friend of yours helps you feel what you're feeling and what you're scared of. So I see this generation. I mean, I'm older, but I see it around me, that this is how it's happening and this is how it should happen. And once you've done that, once you've overcome your challenges, once you've overcome your own inner demons, you're ready for all kinds of relationships. But it is like, I mean, if I have a bad day at work, I do go to my friends at work before I go to my family. Because they're going to get it earlier. That's all, right? It's so that is for me a very, very important and a very underrated relationship. If you look at people my age, I mean, I have teenage children. So, we spend a lot of our time texting each other. When are we going to meet? Oh, kids have this, kids have that. So we sort of put our friendship on the back burner. We need to do that because our commitments are like that. But at the end of the day, when something really goes wrong, when the same kid is suppose not doing well or something, it's the same friends I reach out to. What should I do? So I felt that we don't give friendship and that connection between our friends that kind of mileage. So
it's beautiful. So are you somebody, now this is a personal question, are you somebody who's still in touch with your school friends, college friends?
Yes.
Try to go be there at the reunions. Are you that very active person who gets the people together?
Absolutely. I'm in touch with my school friends, my college friends, my work friends from previous jobs. But having said that, I do go for reunions, and I used to be the one organizing them till quite recently, when now I have too much on my plate. But having said that, I'm basically an introvert. So I enjoy meeting people with whom I form that connection. Otherwise, I'm not able to just go somewhere for the sake of going, or just be in a party because I used to know these people. So that I can't do. But people with whom I have a connection, with whom I feel that I can share and be understood, I maintain my friendships. I remember birthdays without Facebook and Insta and all that. So I'm
It's a taunt to a lot of people.
it's important for me. It's
That's
important
really
for me.
beautiful because that's really evident in the book also, because I felt the way home to be very refreshing because of that. Because honestly, when I also took out the book, I was under the impression that there's gonna be another love story, but it was way more beautiful than a love story. I'm not keeping love relationships aside, but it was really beautiful, connecting, because you may be in a relationship or not, but then we all have friends.
Yes.
So which means definitely the book, every single person can literally connect to it.
Relate
so that
to.
for me was the beauty of the book. And coming to your first book, Start from the Borderless Sea, again the theme was slightly different.
Yes.
It again explored relationships, but from a different perspective altogether.
True.
You were literally talking about soulmates.
Yeah.
So how did your mind work? Because from you now, while talking to you, even I understand from you how valuable friendships are
Yeah.
to you. So how did the concept of soulmates, how did that form along for you? How did you write about it? What were the thought processes that were in your head while you were building the book?
So, Stars from the Borderless Sea is actually a collection of 3 novella length stories. It started off as a, no surprise, a short story. So it started as a short story, which is now the last story in the book, which is Mahima's story. And I was writing about a woman who finds her soulmate late in life after she's married, and when she goes to a new workplace, and she's been in a relationship where the dynamics aren't great. And somewhere along the way, the story was not fitting into a short story because it needed more depth. Otherwise, it just sounds frivolous, right?
Yes.
It's about a woman who just
Not
goes,
really very acceptable in today's
yeah,
society.
I mean, it's
Way.
just so the emotions and the backstories needed more space. So I ended up expanding it, and it became longer. And then when I finished it, because for me, I have not judged the protagonist there, and honestly neither have my readers, and that's been very encouraging. So then when I thought about the protagonist, and I thought that she has not been judged, I've not judged her, what she's done with her life is her life, right? And then I began to think about how soulmates change your life and they transform you. And then the first story, which is Gitika's story in the book, happened, and I wrote, it was a very simple story. It could have been the kind of thing that anyone relates to.
Next door neighbor could have.
You've seen it in movies. Rich girl, poor boy, they can't get married, they get married or they don't. But I had to give it a different turn. That was again the power of connection, where two people don't meet, but they remain connected by letters.
Yeah.
I mean, who writes letters these days, right? So then the second story was there, and I knew that I would want to publish this because I think we are all writing to put our words out there. And then I needed a third story. So I began to think about soulmates in a different context. That's a very different context. It's a very simple thing. It's an arranged marriage. You can find your soulmate in an arranged marriage. There are no rules. And so the unifying theme is soulmates, and that's how the third story actually happened, because you need a particular word count to write a book. So so that's how it happened, and that's how all the stories, they don't feel like a misfit, like what is the story doing in this book, because they are bound by that concept of soulmates. Wherever you find yours, whenever you find yours, your life is transformed. You have changed, whether it was a relationship that lasted for 25 years or it was a relationship that never even happened in the true sense of it. But what it's done to you and the feelings that you have experienced cannot be changed.
Beautifully said also. So how do you pick out the stories? What's your inspiration when you write the stories?
So this comes with a disclaimer. I have no imagination.
Okay.
I have zero imagination. My stories come from everywhere around me. I mean, if you just look out on the road, there'll be someone standing on the metro station, and I just wonder, is this guy coming from work? Where is he going to? What were his thoughts in the morning? Who's waiting at home for him? Is there no one waiting for him? Who's he going home to? And there you have your story. So I have no imagination of my own. It all comes from people around me. And I just wonder. I honestly wonder.
Interesting. That's really nice.
What
Okay.
drives a person? What doesn't drive a person? Suppose you go somewhere, you have a bad experience on the front desk of a hotel or something. I'll wonder, what happened?
Nice. I hope today's our conversation inspires you to some part of some story. Let me dream it.
Keep
Let
reading.
me manifest it in that way.
Keep reading.
We'll see
Keep
that.
reading.
What are your future projects gonna be looking like?
So, I'm working on another fiction book.
Okay.
And like I said, I do have some thoughts of writing non-fiction. But I somehow find myself, magnetically drawn to fiction because a lot of this non-fiction writing that I do, I also do in form of academic writing at work.
Yeah.
So the creative part is actually, the
Your
fun of
escape.
and the fun of creating a character from scratch. And I mean, see, I have teenagers, yeah. Only my characters will listen to me, my kids won't.
Oh, okay.
They're making the character do what I want.
Interesting. That is really
So
nice.
basically, I'm working on another fiction book, which is very different from these two, is all I'll say.
When do you think we can expect it?
I think by end of the year, I'll be done with it.
Okay.
I'll be
publishing
done. Yeah,
process.
yeah.
Interesting. So again, coming back to the books, you
Yes.
as a writer and everything, you have been an audacious reader, like you said, but then you've never dreamed of becoming a writer. You've never really thought about it. You just stumbled upon it, worked around it, and it kind of worked out for you really well. How has your publishing journeys been like? From the point that you actually finished, you have a manuscript ready now, right? Now this has to go out. So how has your fight with the publishing world been like so far?
Very, very interesting choice of words. The first time fight comes into the conversation, it's with publishing. So before we go to that, I want to say that yes, what you said about my writing journey, it has exactly been like that. But at the same time, I don't want to give this mistaken impression because writing is very romanticized.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I want to become a writer, or I've written a 1,000-word story and now I want to write a novel. So yes, you can do it. I've done it, but it's not easy. I just put this disclaimer there because of social media.
Yes.
On social media, it seems like everyone's churning out books, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And it
I
seems
feel
like
so too.
everyone's winning awards and everyone's just everywhere. That's not true. And sometimes it's not easy to remember that. So writing is a lot about revising, about rewriting. Writing is a lot about rejections. So you need to have a thick skin.
Okay.
And you need to keep at it. Yes, anyone can probably become a writer, but I don't want to romanticize it and make it sound like very easy that you just sit down and go tuck and it happens.
Yeah.
So having said that, coming to publishing journey, I think another note of thing that I would like to tell all the listeners, because there'll be many aspiring authors here.
Exactly.
One,
yeah.
we need to understand how the publishing world works. Yes, writing is a very internal process. We disappear in our rooms and we come out after 1 year and we have a book. But now this is where we've been literally under a rock and we don't know how the publishing industry works and how the publishing industry is changing.
Yes.
So we need to understand that. And for that, there's social media. Now you have a lot of people ready to give advice. Pick the right people, go talk to them, talk to people who've published. There are so many ways of publishing now, traditional, self. Figure out what works for you. There's no one path. There's no one path. Even the same author with different books is choosing different paths, right? You're in publishing, so you know that. So figure out what works for you. Why are you writing? And what is this book about? And figure that out. It's going to take time. And then you embark on that big journey of sending your submissions once you figured out what you want to do. So I did that. I did do a lot of understanding. I'm being very honest. It was COVID time. The whole world was online. So I just attended every online thing I could about publishing, basically.
Interesting, yeah.
Because I'm an outsider. In my profession, I've been there for 20 years. I know how it works. But publishing was new to me.
That's exactly why I wanted to ask you this question also, because a lot of people could be new. So your insight that you're sharing could really connect with a lot of people who, like you, did not come from a writing background, did not dream for years that no, I need to write. This is what I've been born to
Who
do.
have not been even manifesting it.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I was all, thrilled to get this reply from a big literary agent, send me your manuscript. And then they just replied back saying that, this is not a format that works for debut authors because it's not, short stories also are not popular. And this one is nowhere. This is not a novel and this is not a short story collection. So, debut authors with this kind of format, we don't see this getting published. And she did say that the manuscript is nicely done. But this format, I'm not taking the onus of, that I can get it published. So I was disappointed. I wrote back to them saying, okay, thank you. What else can I do? And I continued submitting. I found my publisher in Readomania and they liked the manuscript. And then I was very guarded because I was expecting the same response that this kind of a format. So then they said that, we'll take it. And I was very glad that they did not want me to change the format. Like one publisher had told me that, you make each story into a full novel, put some, masala, drama, more characters. I didn't have any more characters I could think of, the stories. So then, I mean, like I said, after many rejections, I found something that worked. And here we are with the book.
It's really nice. So what stage of writing are you in with your upcoming book?
So I finished 2 drafts. It's with my beta readers as of now.
Okay.
So I have 3 people whom I sent out my manuscripts to. And now I'm sitting with my fingers crossed wondering what
they don't come back and shout at you.
Oh no, they will. That's why they're my beta readers.
Interesting.
They
so
will.
one last question from me to you is, everybody has a dream, right? Every single person has a dream. So how has, for you as a person, at some stage you picked up a dream that, no, I want to write. I have ideas. I've experimented with short stories. Now I want to write a full novel. And somehow, somewhere on the line, your dream slowly came true or still coming true. How has this entire feeling and experience been for you? And out of this entire experience, is there one strong message that you would want to give to anybody who would want to follow the path?
So, how it's been for me, despite the rejections, despite the beta readers screaming at me, despite me ending up with a blank page on so many days, is magical. Because it's been transformative. As a person, you change. You grow, you believe more and more in the power of your words, you believe more and more in yourself, and it is a testimony that you can do whatever you dream of, as long as you work at it. So also in my case, like I said, I came to writing relatively late in life, so there is no timeline there. So that's another thing. What I want to say is what I already said. Don't get carried away by the clutter around writing. There's a lot of clutter around writing and publishing. Some of it is good because it's there and you need to know it. But most of it, a lot of it actually is just that. It's just clutter. Don't get carried away in the initial stages. Okay. Finish your manuscript, work hard at it, rather than spending your time just in that clutter. Learn the craft, improve your craft. How you do it, you can do it in different ways. There's so many online groups, platforms these days. So keep writing, keep sending your work out, because you only grow when you get a feedback.
Yes,
pretty much if you lock yourself under the lock and you come out with after a year with the manuscript, pretty much I don't think very few of us are the kind who have something substantial.
Yeah, okay.
It only grows when you give feedback. So that's what I really want to say, that it's possible. Don't get distracted by the clutter. You'll find your way easy enough, soon enough, when you have to. So for me, it's been nothing short of magical for another reason. I found a very, very strong group of people with whom I connect genuinely.
Wow, okay.
And of course, one set of that is my readers, of course, and that is like for an author, obviously the absolute thing when someone texts you after reading your book that, oh, I really like this person. And like you said, oh, I like Neil, so that. But more than that, as a writer, as a person, I found people with whom my values match. And the times that we live in, the stage of life at which we are, that does not happen to us very frequently. You know, I mean, I'm working, I have a family. Where is the time?
Yes.
Got it. And I mean, you know, when we're in college, you still go out actively looking for people, you broaden your horizons. Now I found people with whom I connect, people whom I care for. The virtual friends, what started off, have become really, really strong friends. And I think that comes back to the way home, that it's the power of connection. So I'm very glad for that online community that I found, which is mostly women, it's mostly a sisterhood, but I'm really, really grateful for that.
Amazing. It's really nice to hear all of that from you, and I really wish you all the very best.
Thank you so much.
The charm that you hold is infectious in a
Thank
very
you
good
so
way.
much.
I really hope and wish that keeps spreading along to more and more people, and good luck to your new book, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here, and I'm glad you enjoyed the books. Thank you.